Well, we'll get started. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Joe Sergi, and this is Module 2 of my self-help kit on the flourishing life. This is the audio-visual component of Module 2. So for more detail, you could read the script version of this module from Michael's website. Michael's stands for the Management Institute for Quality of Life Studies. And the URL address is michaels, miqols.org. And the title of Module 2 is the Flourishing Questionnaire. The Flourishing Questionnaire. Flourishing activities are those that induce eudaimonic well-being. To start, we need to define eudaimonic well-being. To do so, we'll have to distinguish between hedonic and eudaimonic well-being. Quality of life researchers have noted that hedonic eudaimonic distinction has dominated discussions of quality of life and well-being since ancient times, with Greek philosophers such as Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle discussing what it means to live the good life. At least 2,500 years ago. The term eudaimonia was first introduced in philosophical texts by Aristotle in the 4th century BCE. He was the first to discuss the hedonic eudaimonic distinction. Aristotle rejected hedonic pursuits, the pursuit of pleasure as the guiding concept of the good life. He argued that a good life is not about action for pleasure, but action in accordance with virtue and reason. In Plato's dialogue, Gorgias, Socrates tells Polus, the men and women who are gentle and good are also happy, as I maintain, and the unjust and evil are miserable. These philosophers believed that people become happy through wisdom and choosing wisely. People do not act irresponsibly toward themselves or others when they choose wisely. Aristotle is often contrasted with Aristippus, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, who lived also in the 4th century BCE and whose perspective was particularly grounded in hedonia. Aristippus taught that pleasure is the only good in life and pain is the only evil. Examples of philosophers whose texts are more aligned with hedonic well-being include Hobbes and Bentham. Psychologists were, of course, influenced by the writings of the ancient Greek philosophers. For example, much of Freud's writing was grounded in the pleasure principle. Other famous psychologists, such as Maslow's and Alport, equated well-being with eudaimonia. These psychologists are considered part of the humanist tradition in personality psychology. Some quality of life researchers espouse only a hedonic or only a eudaimonic perspective. However, most well-being researchers believe that a combination of both hedonia and eudaimonia is needed for an optimal existence, a combination termed flourishing or living a full life. I subscribe to several theories of flourishing, namely self-determination theory, the theory of human flourishing, the theory of purpose and meaning, the theory of positive mental health, and the theory of functioning well-being. So let's start out with self-determination theory. Self-determination theory is that there are universal human psychological needs. These are competence, relatedness, and autonomy. So focusing on competence, an example of a survey item would be, I feel confident that I can do things well. When it comes to relatedness, an example of a survey item would be, I feel that people I care about also care about me. And the last psychological need, which is autonomy, an example of a survey item would be, I feel free to decide for myself how to live my life. When it comes to the second theory, which is called the theory of human flourishing, this theory focuses on defining and measuring human flourishing in terms of psychological well-being. This construct involves six dimensions. Self-acceptance, and an example of a survey item would be, I like most aspects of my personality. The second dimension is positive relations with others. And an example of a survey item would be, I enjoy I enjoy personal and mutual conversations with family members and friends. The third dimension is personal growth. An example of a survey item would be, for me, life has been a continuous process of learning, changing, and growing. Another dimension is purpose in life. An example of a survey item would be, some people wander aimlessly through life, but I'm not one of them. Another dimension is environmental mastery. An example of an item is, I am quite good at managing the many responsibilities of my daily life. And the last dimension is autonomy. An example is, I have confidence in my opinions, even if they are contrary to the general consensus. So that should give you a sort of an understanding of the theory of human flourishing, which is again supported by much research in well-being. The next theory is the theory of purpose and meaning in life. Again, purpose and meaning in life. This theory supports the notion that they are beneficial to human functioning. People who are aware which aspects of life are most vital and live their lives consistently with those values are likely to experience high levels of eudaimonic well-being. People express the extent to which they feel enthusiasm in living, whether they feel life is exciting, if they have clear life goals, whether the life that they live is been worthwhile, whether they have a reason for being alive, whether the world is meaningful, whether they feel that they have a life purpose. Here's an example of a survey item based on this theory. I have, excuse me, I have a good sense of what makes my life meaningful. Okay, well, let's talk about another theory, which is called the theory of positive mental health. So, this theory says that happiness involves feeling good and functioning well. So, the presence of mental health and flourishing is flourishing in life, and the absence of mental health is languishing. Positive mental health involves 15 dimensions. Competence, an example of a survey item would be, most things I do well. Another dimension is clear thinking. And an example item of a survey item is, I'm able to think clearly. The third dimension is emotional stability. And an example of a survey item is, I am emotionally balanced and even-tempered. A fourth dimension is engagement. And an example of a survey item is, I feel excited by many of the things I do. The fifth dimension is meaning. And an example of a survey item is, I feel I have a sense of direction in my life. And then we have optimism. An example of a survey item is I'm always optimistic about my future. The seventh dimension is positive emotions. An example of an item is I am happy most of the time. And the eighth dimension is positive relations. And an example of an item is I have close and secure relationships. Then we have resilience. Resilience is measured by by an item such as it does not take me long to recover from a stressful event. And then we have self-esteem. Uh, a lot of things about me are good. That would be an example of a survey item. The 11th dimension is vitality. An example of an item is I feel full of energy most of the time. And then we have self-acceptance. An example of a survey item is I can admit my shortcomings without shame or embarrassment. Then we have autonomy. And an example of an item would be I feel free to do whatever I decide to do. And then we have empathy. And an example of an item is I easily get caught in other people's feelings. Then finally, we have the last dimension, which is pro-social behavior. And an example of an item would be I frequently offer to help others. Okay, well, another theory which is called the theory of functional well-being. Now, this theory attempts to integrate two well-being mechanisms related to the regulation of behavior, namely the regulation of stability and the regulation of change. Regulation of stability is involved with hedonic well-being, well, while regulation of change is involved with eudaimonic well-being. As we all know, hedonic well-being involves two components, affective and cognitive. The affective component focuses on feelings of pleasure and displeasure, while the cognitive component involves evaluating life overall and across various life domains. This can be further translated in terms of happiness. The affective component refers to being happy in your life, whereas the cognitive component refers to being happy with your life. In terms of functioning, regulation of stability is guided by the principle of homeostasis. Biological, psychological, and social states of disequilibrium generate feelings of displeasure, which prompt the individual to engage in behavior to restore equilibrium. Pleasure is experienced when equilibrium or homeostasis is restored. This is the affective component of hedonic well-being at work. The cognitive component operates similarly, but at the cognitive rather than the affective level. That is, the individual strives to attain goals prompted by a state of disequilibrium. Actual state is discrepant from the desired state. The desired state represents the goal. At the cognitive level, the life satisfaction and domain satisfaction is experienced in relation to goal attainment. The accomplishment of goals signals good functioning. The regulatory mechanism involved in eudaimonic well-being is different. There are two major components of eudaimonic well-being, growth feelings and growth processes. Growth feelings can be described as feelings of engagement, curiosity, interest, and perhaps awe. The individual experiences a sense of being absorbed in difficult tasks and events. The overriding feeling involved in eudaimonia is being happy, fulfilling your life. Again, let me repeat, being happy, fulfilling your life. Growth processes involve learning and development, or what motivational and developmental psychologists refer to as personal growth. Personal growth is characterized by sensory, cognitive, emotional, social, and moral development. how the individual matures or achieves their potential to become a fully functioning human being in a societal context. Please note that the elements of intrinsic motivation, purpose and meaning, and personal growth and development are common across these eudaimonic well-being theories and research. As such, the self-assessment questionnaire, which I will be talking about again right now in a few seconds, is designed to capture these elements across various life domains. By completing this self-assessment survey, you should be able to readily identify those flourishing domains and conversely, domains in which you are languishing. Okay, so let's talk about the survey instrument. You start out by, the survey instrument starts out by prompting you to think about what flourishing is. And it says people have distinct feelings about whether they live flourishing lives, flourishing in various life domains such as physical health, love life, family life, financial life, consumer life, social life, leisure life, and work life. Please respond to the following survey items to gauge your level of flourishing life. So I'm going to just give you an example of the first two items, physical health and love life. So physical health, that's engaging in physical exercise, participating in competitive sports, and eating and drinking nutritiously. And the item is, I feel I'm very interested and highly engaged in learning about matters related to my physical health in ways that can enhance my personal growth. And again, people would respond on a scale varying from no, this is not at all true of me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and the other polar extreme, yes, this is very true of me. The second item is about the love life, engaging in passionate sex and other activities that foster intimacy and growth in romantic relationships. And the item is, I feel I'm very interested and highly engaged in learning about matters related to my love life in ways that can enhance my journey of personal growth. And again, the response scale is no, this is not at all true of me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And the polar opposite is yes, a this is very true of me. So again, the questionnaire also has similar items related to family life, financial life, consumer life, social life, leisure life, and work life. So get a chance to look at the questionnaire and respond accordingly based on how you feel you have flourishing experiences in these various life domains. And that would help you, um, identify those places, um, those life domains in which you need to concentrate on to experience more flourishing, more eudaimonia. Okay? I will see you in the context of the next module. Bye now.